This right here is the best part of the haunting. I almost don't have to do a review at all, but just show off the house and how beautiful it all looks. The exterior shots are of the Harlexton Manor in Lincolnshire, England. This house is definitely on my bucket list to see someday. I could just sit back and stare at it. But the interior shots are all a set built specifically for this movie. I am a little disappointed to learn that this isn't all real and has probably been torn down, so I'll never get to see it in real life. But hey, at least we can watch the movie and marvel at how gorgeous this all looks.
They're here.
First off, DreamWorks didn't have the rights to make a shot-for-shot remake of the 1963 Haunting, so they had to make some changes. I'm okay with that. A remake should be familiar but fresh, borrowing from the original but also giving fans something new. We first meet Eleanor right after her mother died, and her sister and brother-in-law inherited the house. They want to sell it, kicking Nell out. Not all hope is lost, however, because out of the kindness of their hearts, they invite Eleanor to live with them as a maid/babysitter to look after their snot-nosed brat of a son.
Eleanor, help me. I gotta pee.
Luckily for her, Nell gets a phone call from a mysterious voice, informing her of an ad in the newspaper. An ad looking for people who can't sleep, thinking Nell would be the perfect candidate.
I see it.
Now we meet Dr. Marrow, the one in charge of the sleep study. Except it doesn't really have anything to do with sleep, but fear. That's right, Dr. Marrow wants to scare his participants to learn how they'll react. He wants to know how fear helps us. Of course, you can't tell the volunteers that, because in his words,
"You don't tell the rats they're actually in a maze, Malcolm."
Eleanor's first to show up at the house, Mr. Dudley greeting her at the gate.
"What do you want?"
She heads up to the door, knocks, but when no one answers, she lets herself in, and we finally get to see the main event. I'm really not overhyping how this set looks. This movie has stuck with me for 25 years because of how cool it looks. It knows its strengths too, because it lingers on each shot like the first bite of a delicious fillet. The music only exemplifying the eerie mood.
Hello?
Perfect. Perfect.
After wandering around for a while, Nell finds Mrs. Dudley, who shows her to her room. I like the Dudleys here. Bruce Dern having played in The Burbs, and Marion Seldes being the old lady in Home Alone 3.
You're a pretty tough old bird.
She even does the little speech taken right from the original movie, how no one stays after dark. The nearest town is 9 miles away, so no one will hear you.
In the night, in the dark.
It's creepy and delivered quite well. Next, Theo shows up, played by Catherine Zeta-Jones, and she is at her peak performance in this movie.
But I've been distracted from work by love, you know what I mean?
Oh, sorry, where were we? Mrs. Dudley gives Theo the same speech, which Eleanor kind of pokes fun of.
In the night.
In the dark.
The girls explore the mansion, finding a huge door with some creepy carvings all over it. Nell explains that this is purgatory, where all the children are stuck, unable to pass on to the afterlife. She also claims to have been in purgatory for 11 years. I'm sure this is just her referencing taking care of her mother for so long, but Theo doesn't know that, so she just thinks Nell is nuts. They move on to find a funhouse room, a room full of water, which has no practical use in a house, but okay. And then they finally run into Luke. Here, he's not heir to the house like before, but just another participant in the sleep study. That's fine, he does a good job.
Wow, you're so dominant.
At dinner, Dr. Marrow tells everyone why they're here, which he tells them the lie, that they're studying insomniacs. They all explain their condition, and Nell says that hers is different than the rest. Luke and Theo live such interesting lives, so when it comes to sleep, they just can't unwind. But Eleanor's boring. She can't sleep because every night for 11 years, her mother would bang her cane against the wall, waking her up. I guess she just got used to it, and now she can't get a good night's sleep. Respectfully, Eleanor, that's bull. Ask any parent. Once their baby sleeps through the night, that's the best night's sleep everyone in the house has ever had. Nothing can wake you up.
You're a basket case, just like the rest of us.
Once Nell's mom died, you know she's getting 8 to 10 hours a night. They all move on to the great room where Dr. Marrow tells them the history of the house. How Hugh Crane made a fortune in textile mills that he owned and wanted a house full of children. But he and his wife couldn't conceive, all their babies being stillborn. Once his wife died, Crane became a recluse, but he kept on building. The locals said at night they could hear sounds coming from the house.
Sounds of children.
You might have noticed that I haven't said anything about these two people yet. That's because they don't matter at all. They're Dr. Marrow's assistants, and they don't spend much time at Hill House, because Mary here gets hit in the eye with some piano wire. This scene messed me up as a kid. Looking back, it's not that bad, but man, 12-year-old me was squirming in his seat when he saw this. Anyway, these two leave. Luke and Marrow lock back up, and when they do, Marrow tells Luke a little more of his story. That Hugh Crane's wife actually killed herself, but no one knows what drove her to do it. Was it Hugh himself? We learn a little later that this is all a good old-fashioned haunted house story, made up to scare the participants. Marrow knows Luke will tell the others. He wants them to plant the seed and bring out the fear in them. I do gotta mention something real quick. That night, Luke can't sleep. I mean, he is an insomniac, so he walks around the hall tossing a baseball. Why did he bring a baseball and glove? Like, you had to physically pack that and bring it. Why? I like to think that he was like, okay, I got plenty of shirts, a pair of pants, and half a sock. Oh, my baseball glove, I can't forget that. Nell gets woken up, hearing banging on the wall. At first, thinking it's her mother, but then snaps to when Theo screams out.
No! No!
You know, the audio effects are pretty good in this movie. The bass and surround sound would have made this the ultimate theater watching experience. They try to justify the pounding as just old pipes, which everyone seems content with for now. A little later, Eleanor's sitting there just minding her own business when she gets spooked by the fireplace. Everyone comes running in to take a look, finding nothing but this very big and heavy lion's head chimney flue.
Hello, Santa!
While everyone's distracted by the fireplace, they don't see the giant note written in red paint over Crane's portrait. Welcome home, Eleanor. To take her mind off of things for a bit, Dr. Marrow shows her to the greenhouse, complete with that long, windy spiral staircase. You better believe we're coming back to that. That night, Nell gets a visitor and follows bloody footprints to the end of a bookcase, where inside she finds Crane's secret study. This is where he kept his ledger, which lists all the children that died working in his factory. Nell takes this book to Theo, who was actually asleep, something she has trouble doing and isn't very happy when woken up. Eleanor now goes to find more evidence, and she stumbles upon a picture book, discovering that Hugh had a second wife, Caroline, and she's wearing the same necklace as Eleanor. The pictures point to the fireplace for her proof, and inside, Eleanor finds human remains. Then they jump to life. Ooga booga. As she runs, she hears the children calling out for her, which lead her to a small door that hasn't been opened yet. The nursery. She tries to get in, but the door won't budge. Instead, it punches her. I like the little statues outside there, like, he did it. No, he did it. Eleanor finds the others and tells them the whole story about how Hugh Crane killed the kids and brought them to his house. Now, he won't let them go. Dr. Marrow tries to tell her that it was all just a story that he made up and comes clean to everyone about the real reason they're here, to be scared.
That's why you brought us here? That's what this is all about?
You brought us here to scare us, is that it?
Yes.
They're all pretty ticked off at him, but he at least has the decency to check the fireplace for a skeleton. However, it's jammed. Eleanor's in bed and finally gets attacked by the housemaster himself.
Will not let you hurt a child!
She takes off running all over the house until she finds herself in that creepy mirror room. And we see that she, or more accurately Caroline, Crane's second wife, was pregnant, and they did have a baby. The others find Elle at the top of that rickety old staircase.
Hey, I've seen this one. This is a classic.
Dr. Marrow goes after her, the floor falling out underneath of him as he goes. Fun fact, Liam Neeson is actually afraid of heights, so this scene required very little acting. He makes it to the top safe and sound, and they get Nell back into bed. Nothing they can do now until morning, once the Dudleys come and unlock the gate. At this point, everyone thinks that Eleanor is nuts, and this is all in her head. But that's about to change when Dr. Marrow gets attacked. He's in the garden doing his notes when the giant statue grabs him and pulls him under. Good luck explaining that one, Doc. Eleanor's tucked away in bed when the room comes alive. The ceiling breathing and hands coming down, trapping her in bed. She screams out and everyone comes running. There's no denying it now. The house is alive. They get her out and decide that enough is enough. It's time to get out of here. They race outside, but remember, the gate's locked. How are they going to get out? Well, it would make sense that Dr. Marrow has a key. I mean, they managed to open it and lock it again when Mary had to leave in the beginning. Why can't they just do that now? Well, plot point, that's why. Luke takes Elle's car and crashes it through the gate. Everyone escapes the house, and they all live happily ever after. Is what I wish I could say. But unfortunately, that's not what happens. Luke does use Eleanor's car to crash into the gate, but it doesn't budge, and he gets trapped inside. While they're getting Luke free, Eleanor wanders back into the house. And this time, she makes it into the nursery, which we see looks just like her mother's room back home. So here's the deal. Eleanor is the great-great-granddaughter to Caroline and Hugh Crane. She's family. Remember, Caroline had a baby, so Hugh's bloodline was passed down. That's all well and good. I really don't mind that. It's Eleanor's obsession with the children.
And the children are my family. I have to stay for the children. They need me.
The children this and the children that. We get it. They escape the nursery and try to escape the house, but old Huey boy won't let them. Luke takes his frustration out on the man, which is a big mistake. He falls, or is pushed, depending on how you look at it, into the fireplace. And here comes that giant flue lobbing off Luke's head. Oh, come on, he had plenty of time to move out of the way. Bones explode out of the fireplace. The portrait of Crane falls, nearly killing Theo, and a gargoyle comes to life. Again, I don't mind all this. It's a fitting grand finale. It's the whole "I have to save the children" bit, which only gets more and more cringe when Eleanor calls Hugh Grandpa.
My family, Grandpa!
The demons from the purgatory door grab the ghost of Grandpa and pulls him into the door, sealing him there forever, allowing the children, and Eleanor apparently, to pass on. The Dudleys arrive in the morning and they're just like, look at these sillies crashing their car and such. Just wait until they see the mess they have to clean up inside. And that was 1999's The Haunting. Gorgeous set, beautiful location, fantastic acting, a good setup, and a horrible third act. Even at 12, I remember leaving the theater saying, the children, the children. What were they thinking? In the original movie and book, Eleanor speeds off and hits a tree. It leaves you wondering if it was all in her head or if it was real ghosts. But here, there is no doubt. It's ghosts. But here's the thing. I can ignore all that and come back to watch this movie time and time again because of the sets. I know I keep coming back to it, but it really is fantastic. Some people might say Titanic or Lord of the Rings have the best set design, but I'd have to argue it's The Haunting. On top of that, all 4 of the main characters are on their A game, and we're talking some pretty big names. People like Catherine Zeta-Jones and Liam Neeson. But get this, originally Stephen King was set to write the script, which he later turned into Rose Red. That's pretty nuts, but would you believe me if I told you that Steven Spielberg was set to be the director? He was on board until he decided to work on Minority Report. Apparently, he was so disgusted by the final film that he removed his name from the credits completely. That's pretty harsh. It wasn't that bad. However, 1999's The Haunting doesn't hold a candle to the 1963 version. Except for the set. Nothing will ever top that. Real quick, before we cap this all off, I want to talk about Netflix The Haunting of Hill House. It's its own story that doesn't really have anything to do with the Shirley Jackson novel, except it shares some of the same character names, and of course the title. Oh, and they do mention that thing about it raining stones on the house when they were younger, and of course they have the spiral staircase with a hanging. It borrowed a lot from the book, but it's not the same story. All in all, it is a good show, and I think it's worth a watch, just not what I would consider a full remake. I give The Haunting 2.5 random baseball mitts out of 4. Now, if we're talking the set, it's easily 100 bazillion baseball mitts out of 4.
What do we all need in life? What are the basics? Food, water, shelter.
Sex.
Wow.